The highly controversial Snow White movie has finally hit theaters, and the big question is, does it capture that Disney magic, or is it just another bland live-action Disney movie? Well, let's talk about it. But as always, before we get started, if you're new here, my name is Aaron, and I talk all things movies and TV, but really mostly movies. So if you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you enjoy my videos, hit that like button while you're at it. Now, if you've already seen the movie and you're watching this video, go ahead and let me know what your thoughts on it are down in the comments. But now, with all that out of the way, let's talk about the movie that is Snow White. Starring Rachel Zegler, this obviously gives us a retelling of the classic animated movie Snow White that came out in 1937 and was the first feature film and animated film from Disney and kind of started this whole princess phenomenon that is Walt Disney. And I did go back and rewatch that original Snow White movie, and I don't really know how to explain it, but man, something about that movie is just special. And honestly, it's crazy to think that in 12 years time, that animated movie will be 100 years old, and it is the movie that truly started it all for Disney, and I just think that is super cool. But anyways, we are here to talk about the live action Snow White movie, so let's jump right into the good. And the first thing I have here is, of course, Rachel Zegler. She is an absolute star in this, and she is the best part of this movie by miles. I think she did a good job at reinventing and modernizing the character while also keeping the core of who Snow White is the same. In the original Snow White, she was just hoping that one day her prince will come, but in this, her character's main focus was really saving her kingdom and being fearless, fair, brave, and true, which were the 4 words that she lived by in this movie. However, with that said, she still carried that kind, sweet, tender-hearted spirit that Snow White is known to have, and that's why I absolutely loved Rachel Zegler in this role, because even though in this movie her main objective wasn't to find a prince, the heart of the character still remained the same. But she really shined when she was singing in those musical numbers. Her voice is just absolutely phenomenal. There's no question about that. And I don't even know how to explain it, but it was so satisfying listening to her sing these songs and just hit every note with ease. Now, I'll be honest, this thing probably would have sucked without Rachel Zegler, in my opinion, because she truly put this thing on her back and carried it all the way through and did a phenomenal job. Next up for the good is the music. Now, the music in this was done by Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, better known as Pasek and Paul, and they are EGOT winning producers and songwriters and have done movies like La La Land and The Greatest Showman, which are 2 great movies. And for those of you who may not know what an EGOT is, it's just an acronym saying that you've won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. So yes, these guys are the real deal. But anyways, they wrote some original songs for this movie that were pretty good. Waiting on a Wish is probably my favorite, but we also had Good Things Grow that opened up the movie and also closed the movie. But I'll say when they reprised that song at the end of the movie, I did feel just a bit of that Disney magic kind of seep through that song, and it did make me smile a bit. They also did a good job at reimagining the classic songs like Whistle While You Work, and I'm not gonna lie, I've had that little whistle, you know, the stuck in my head ever since I've seen this movie, and I've been doing it at like random times during the day because it's just that catchy. But then when you add Rachel Zegler into all of these songs that are already good, her voice just makes all of these songs that much better. Moving on to the so-so, and the first thing I have here is the 7 dwarves. Now, I will say that I enjoyed the dwarves. I thought they were fun, and they did grow on me as this movie went on, but man, they just looked so uncanny to me, and after watching this movie, I can't say I completely agree with going the CGI route for the dwarves. I don't know if they wanted them to look identical to their animated counterparts, but I just never got used to the way they looked. I also think Hollywood is advanced enough to just cast some little people in these roles and put makeup and prosthetics on them to get them to look like the dwarves. And in turn, I think this would have also helped Rachel Zegler's performance even more because she would have been interacting with actual human beings, and that would have made her relationship with the dwarves feel a little bit more intimate, especially with Dopey, because they gave him an actual character arc in this thing that I thought was cool. But I think the worst part about this is that they actually casted a little person in this movie, but he didn't play one of the dwarves, and that bothered me probably way more than it should have. I just felt like Disney was saying, yeah, we could have casted little people for the dwarves, but we just decided not to, and that just doesn't make much sense to me. Next up for the so-so is the story. Now, the story in this was a bit different from the original. They went in a couple of different directions here and there. However, overall, just like the character of Snow White, I feel like the core of the story remained the same. We still get a lot of those iconic moments that were in the original, but my big problem with this is that in between those iconic moments, at times it feels like this movie didn't really know what to do. So there are a lot of scenes, in my opinion, that just kind of feel random and feel like they're filling time until we get to that next iconic moment that we know and love. So for me, that just made it felt like that this movie didn't have much direction on what it truly wanted to be and why it should exist. It just felt like we had a bunch of iconic moments at times that were tied together by random scenes. And finally, getting into the bad, and the first thing I have here is Gadot. Now, I'm gonna try to hold my tongue on this one, but she was just not good in this. And the nicest way I can put this is that she was just terribly miscast. The line delivery just wasn't there, and she also just seemed very stiff throughout this whole movie because she wasn't very expressive either. Plus, on top of that, she's not the greatest singer, so when we got to her musical number, it just wasn't the best in my opinion. But what made it worse for me is while I was sitting there watching this movie, I thought of another actor that I thought would have absolutely killed this role, and her name is Kathryn Hahn. After seeing what she did in Agatha, in my opinion, this role was made for her, and she can sing, so she would have killed the musical numbers as well. So I think I almost made this movie worse for myself because every time I saw Gal Gadot, all I could think about is how amazing Kathryn Hahn would have been in this role. The last thing I have for the bad, and before I say this, I will say that I am well aware that I am not the target audience for this movie, and I do think this will be a cute film for kids and families to go see, but with that said, this movie just didn't quite capture that Disney magic. As I said before, I did feel that magic just a teeny bit in one of the songs, but that's about it. There was just no sense of wonder and excitement, and you don't get that feeling of escapism like you do with some of their other better movies. Now, I won't go as far and say that this was a soulless movie because even though this film does have its problems, I still think there was something there. But I will say that this probably won't stick with you like other Disney movies do. So at the end of the day, this is just an average movie. Rachel Zegler carries it with her performance, and there are some good original songs, but other than that, it's just another bland Disney live action movie. Those are my thoughts on Snow White. Be sure to let me know what you thought of the movie down in the comments, and as always, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, get your Eazy Apparel at shopeasyapparel.com. God bless, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.